All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a final desperate stand, the last moments of the planet Kalor. It's a story of just impossible odds and some truly incredible sacrifice.
So, where does this all begin? Well, it starts with a number. 9 million. Can you even picture that? 9 million souls, an entire civilization packed into transport ships. All of them just staring at this one tiny point of light in the distance. Their only way out.
And they're not all in one place either. They're spread out across 412 of these, well, you could call them siege ships. A whole fleet of arcs, basically. A final convoy of hope. Just waiting there, poised right on the edge of a shimmering gateway to the stars.
But here's the thing. Their escape? Not even close to guaranteed. Because standing between those 9 million people and an absolutely overwhelming enemy is another number. 10,000. That's it. 10,000 volunteer warriors, the last line of defense.
And their mission? Oh, it was as simple as it was brutal. They weren't getting on those ships. Nope. Their job was to stay, to fight, and to die, all to buy just enough time for everyone else to make it through that gate.
So, who's leading this charge? Well, on the ground, you've got General Taurian. This guy's a veteran's veteran. He's buried 3 sons. He's seen more wars than you or I could even imagine. And now, he's here for one last duty. And this is his call to arms. It's not some grand promise of victory, you know? It's an oath of a meaningful sacrifice. It's their final, defiant song, and you better believe it's answered by the roar of 10,000 voices, all of them ready to pay that ultimate price.
But let's be clear, for General Telryan, this whole thing, it's not just about military strategy. For him, the cost of this battle is way more personal, way more immediate than even his own life.
Because who shows up, ready for battle? His last surviving son, Vortal. He's there, weapon in hand, fully intending to stay and die right there beside his father. He really sees it as his duty, you know? His place as a warrior.
But Taurian, he just refuses. He gives his son a completely different burden. It's not the duty to die, it's the much, much heavier duty of living. He needs him to lead the survivors, to actually build a future from the ashes of their world.
And with a final salute, one that's part commander to warrior, part father to son, Vortal accepts. He turns, and he walks away from his father for the very last time. And he doesn't look back. He knows, he just knows, that a single glance back would shatter his resolve to leave.
All right, so the evacuation is just getting started when the sky literally tears open. The enemy, the Yeleth, they don't just arrive like a normal army. No, it's more like an apocalyptic tide. We're talking 1 million troops, thousands of ships, all descending on the planet at once.
Kalor's got these orbital defenses, right? 3 huge crystalline rings. They're the first to engage, and they are just hopelessly, completely outmatched. Look at these times. Ring Alpha, the one on the outside, it holds for a grand total of 8 minutes. 8. Within half an hour, the entire defensive net is just gone. Shattered into glittering debris that's raining down from the sky.
Meanwhile, back on the flagship, there's another crisis brewing. The sheer force of the enemy's arrival is messing with the escape gate. It's getting unstable. So what happens? 2 AIs, Synapticore and Vornob, they make a choice. They start pouring their own core energy, their literal life force, into the ship's systems, just trying to hold that pathway to survival open.
Okay, so with the sky defenses completely gone, the battle now falls to the ground. Everything, and I mean everything, now rests on those 10,000 warriors. Every single second of time for that evacuation has to be bought and paid for, in blood.
And there's this field commander, Kethrong, who lays out the brutal math for his terrified soldiers. He tells them, look, victory isn't about killing the enemy. It's not even about surviving. It's about one thing. How many people get through that gate before you fall? It's a battle measured in lives saved per second. Absolutely brutal. The fighting is just pure chaos. The defenders, they're fighting like demons. They're brilliant, but they're so outnumbered it's not even funny. And the Yellis weapons, these prism lances, they're terrifying. They literally freeze soldiers into crystal statues in the middle of a move. You've even got Kethron, the commander, getting hit. He sees his own body starting to crystallize, and what does he do? He just shifts his spear to his other hand and keeps on fighting. Unbelievable. And this right here is what it's all for. On their wrist displays, right in the middle of all that carnage, they can see the number of evacuees just climbing, ticking up, from 5 million to over 6, then hitting 7. Every single one of those digits is a family, a future, that's only possible because someone laid down their life on that battlefield.
Okay, now let's jump back to the flagship, the Memory. It's the very last ship in line to go through the gate. And on board, Vortal is watching his father's final stand on the surface below. But he's not just going to sit there and witness the end. No, he decides to make the enemy feel it.
He sees this massive lead enemy vessel, this cathedral form, descending right on his father's position. So he orders the ship's main weapon, something called the Dissonance Array, to fire. And get this, his order isn't for a kill shot. They don't have the power for that anyway. He just wants that thing to hurt.
And this shot, it's powered by so much more than just the ship's energy. It's literally fueled by grief, by raw defiance, and by the fading consciousness of those two heroic AIs. The beam hits the enemy ship, and for the first time in its entire existence, this godlike machine feels pain. It lets out a scream, a sound that literally shakes the mountains.
Down on the ground, General Taurian sees it. He sees this last act of defiance, this wound that his son's ship just inflicted on an enemy they all thought was untouchable. And he smiles. He just whispers his final words, full of pride, right as the flagship finally slips through the gate and disappears.
And with that, the last ship is through. The gate collapses. The evacuation is over. It's complete. And what's left behind? A silent battlefield covered in 10,000 crystal statues, and a wounded, deeply vengeful enemy.
So let's look at the final numbers, the combat summary. It really shows you the scale of the sacrifice. It was total annihilation for Kaler's forces, 100% lost. Every ship, every soldier, gone. But look at the evacuation column, 9 million out of 9 million, 0% loss. 10,000 lives were traded for 9 million. By their own brutal, grim metric, that was a complete and total success.
So the battle for Kalor is over. But the story is far from finished. The survivors got away, yes, but in doing so, they created something brand new. An enemy that has actually learned how to hate. An enemy that remembers that pain. And now a wounded god is following a very faint trail through the dark. The real question is, what happens when it finally finds them? Their war for survival, it's really only just begun.